Boy, it's raining like crazy lately. Got rain in the forecast tomorrow and the next day and the next day as well. But it's simply been pouring down rain. I want to give you a quick snippet here. I planted regular Madison's cross in this particular bed, but that's not why I'm here. I wanted to show you the difference in plant structure between Donovan here and Brandy Bear. If you look at the leaf structure here of Donovan, it's got kind of less robust, we'll put it at that. In addition to that, the tomatoes are more rounded. There is a little bit of size on them because the original tomato was a big Zac crossed to a cherry tomato to bring in some size, but they didn't have. You got some more over here, for example, that are a little bit more, a little bigger, a little bit more ruffled, but they're still, I don't know, 6, maybe 7 ounces at times, more along the lines of 4 to 5 ounces. Great taste, high parthenocarpic value. But when I bred it to Brandywine, again, the cross between Donovan and Brandywine brought about one of the parent versions of this particular line. But one of the things Brandywine brought in was a more robust plant structure, a larger tomato, like you see over here, more ruffles. I like that. Less splitting. There's still some cat facing in some of the examples of the plant, but all in all, the taste improved significantly. I started getting higher Brix values. The parthenocarpic value is almost equal to Donovan, and just overall, my flagship tomato was Donovan. But look at this, high truss, amounts of flowers on each truss. That comes from the cherry mutant, whereas it settled down more when I bred it to Brandywine, and the plant structure was more robust. Look at these big, beautiful, healthy leaves here. It also, for some reason, doesn't grow as tall as fast. It's got a form of, I guess I'll refer to it as semi-dwarf. It's not as aggressive at growing tall. I love that part. I love everything about this. I wish the parthenocarpic value, in other words, how aggressive the parthenocarpy is, was equal to Donovan. And primarily that's primarily because Donovan sets really, really early and a lot. And that may also have something to do with the size of the fruit, because cherry tomatoes obviously put on a lot more fruit, and beefsteaks less fruit. But Brandy Bear definitely tastes better than Donovan. So those are the two comparisons. I've got a sister line to this particular one growing in these two beds here, and the sister line seems to have more ruffles, about the same shape, about the same plant structure, and that's obviously why they're sisters. So anyway, just want to give you a quick update on the structure of my slicer beefsteaks. If we look at this bed here, you can see there's 2 zucchini, and this is the line I'm carrying forward. I like the leaf pattern, and I like the shape of the plant and everything about it. It has a really good vigor. Fruit looks good, everything looks good. I pulled these 2 off of this left plant here this morning, so they'll be the first ones off of this plant. I have another one that's starting. This had 2 other ones in it, and that one there was a plant from a different breeding. But anyway, so I pulled I believe it was 2 in this one, and I pulled out all the dehybridization zucchini from the other bed completely and planted in a different line of squash. Now that was a dehybridization, and what can happen a lot of times when you dehybridize something, you lose the vigor and you lose the second generation, which is a hybrid, is the F1, and the F2 second generation, they the genes remix and create plants. A lot of times they're subpar, sometimes they're really bad. So this plant, I believe this dehybridization was at the third generation, and it just was not displaying anything close to these two up here in appearance and health and that sort of thing. So I removed them, and we have another line of squash growing back there. In the meantime, I'm really enjoying these two samples, siblings, to carry forward. So what I'm doing is I'm taking pollen from one and crossing to the other to kind of firm up the dominant characteristics in this line, and we'll carry it forward and see what happens next year. Take a look at the kabocha. The first pollinated fruits have set. Look at that pretty thing. It's really a pretty squash. I got another one right here, and see what they look like when they're a little younger and even less colorful, but they get. There's another baby immature one there, but they start getting beautiful as they grow. So this is fun. This is a very interesting breeding. These are the Madison Cross Regrow, and I'm going to talk about this bed real quick. And there's a lot of diversity in the second generation. You see this particular squash here. I don't like the shape of it. I do like how far the PAT gene sends the coloration up the stem there. It's all the way up the stem, so it's got quite a bit. But and I kind of like the pattern here that comes from one of the parents. But one of the parents was also had some genetics in it here that you can kind of tell, and you can see the delicata in the background coming through. And this particular one, it was the only one that had a green tinge to it, and I thought that was kind of neat because it's shaped like Madison's Cross. Not the, I mean the one that's open pollinated now. It's got a basic summer squash shape to it. So I'm curious about this one. I'm gonna keep this one. I am gonna cull this one because of its shape. It doesn't appear to be very prolific. Also, the one next to it, it's got some weirdness to the flowers. There's not a lot of bee gene bleed of color here, and it's got a pretty thick stem to a small fruit, and it's long. This one over here I'll let grow a little bit longer, but it's not looking that promising either, so I'm going to remove these two in the center. That squash over there will probably get removed as well, but I'm keeping this one for sure. Now in this row I've got two, and I don't like really either one of these. The look of this with the bulbous end and the small thin neck. This one over here, I'm gonna let it grow a little bit longer, but I do have some other squash to plant out, and they're sitting over there on the barrel and ready to be transplanted. So let's finish off the look of these and take a look at the remaining ones here. That plant over there, it's not setting fruit very much, so I'm going to remove that one. This one is captivating and weird, but it's too weird, especially when you have a mutation in the line like this. It's kind of strange, and there's not a whole lot of fruit sets. So both of these are coming out. Over here, there's one, maybe two I'm going to keep. This one is not one of them. It's short and fat. It doesn't have a lot of production. This one has that kind of longer look to it. It's got the stripe pattern, which I kind of like, but it doesn't look very well, there's some production on it. I might keep this one a little bit longer. It's got the bee gene going up the stem here. This one is probably a keeper because of the amount of production. It's even got doubles going here. Now, they're not all pollinated, so I'll need them pollinated and grow a little bit. So this one will be interesting. And I feel like I can get some, if I save seed from this plant, for example, I feel like I'm going to get some really cool stuff in the third generation. Maybe not get the ideal plant here, but I think in the third generation I'll get some more uniformity. A longer squash, maybe some color pattern with more uniformity. This one over here I'm going to remove. There's not much to that that's impressive, and it's really long. And finally, these two beds here up front. The squash here is not very attractive. It's long and not much production. Beautiful, aggressive in vigor though. This one is just not coming along very aggressively, meaning the plant structure is weak, so that one's going. Over here, I don't like the look of that particular one. That one's going, and I'm pretty sure this one kind of fits in the weak. Yeah, there's not even hardly, look here, it's got that spearhead look to it, so this one's going too. That'll be good because these two beds here can be used for nothing but the next generation of squash that I'll show you later in the year. A quick look at the asparagus here. It's all the way to the top of the trellis. And there are shoots coming up here. I could have picked them. Now, this is really 1 year, a little over a year and a half, less than a year and a half anyway, of actual time since I planted the crowns, and you're supposed to wait 3 years. It behaved a little bit different than this year than last year. Last year it sent up a lot of summer shoots like this one. There's another one coming up over there I see. So maybe it's continuing a little bit, but anyway, I think next year I'm going to start harvesting. Harvesting at the time we want to eat it. So if it happens that this shoot, we want to eat asparagus, I'll take this shoot. If we're not in the mood to eat it, then this shoot will grow up in fern. And so I'm not thinking we're going to want to eat asparagus more than a couple times a week and only a few spears. So that should work. And then year 3, it's all out asparagus war, us against them, huh? So that's what it looks like for the asparagus. This bed's here got peppers, grapes, and blackberries in them. The blackberries, I'm doing some air pruning. That's a whole complete video. It may or may not be out by the time this one posts. Probably not. I think I'm waiting for them to leaf out. But anyway, the peppers here is going to be another whole complete video, so I'm not going to talk much about those. But when I do create a video for it, it'll be a lot more in depth, which is why it's going to be a separate video. So let's go to one last area here and we'll wrap up this video. And that is the eggplant. The eggplant here, I planted 4. And this is the hybrid between Royal Purple, the eggplant that I developed. It was really cool. And that was a cross. Royal Purple was a selection from Listada de Gandia and Camo. And so that one was hard to get the ideal one that I wanted, but it was absolutely beautiful, which became Royal Purple after many selections. And then I crossed it Louisiana Green Oval, which is a very patternistic, is that a word? Pattern, beautiful pattern green squash, large. And so that should bring some size into these plants. Hopefully the hybrid vigor will bring some production into these plants. And I can see that it won't be long before they produce. Now, Louisiana Green Oval is green and Royal Purple gets really dark. And the kind of cool thing about it is that when the sun hits Royal Purple, now this is a child of Royal Purple and Louisiana Green Oval. But when Royal Purple, the sun hits it, it darkens the stems and the fruit. In fact, last year I covered the fruit, which is a really dark purple, in the sun, and it was stark white. When no sun touches it at all, no color came to it. So these right now, because it's cloudy, it's been cloudy and rainy for a while, they might not be as dark as they're going to get. See the veins in here? That is liable to get darker. Who knows what the fruit's going to be. I hope it has the pattern or some pattern. Royal Purple's, one of Royal Purple's parents was Listada de Gandia, and it had a really cool pattern. And Louisiana Green Oval has a really cool pattern, completely different. So hopefully there'll be a pattern to the hybrid. That's my hope. And it's a really cool that it's taken some of the dark gene. I didn't expect it to. I thought the lighter gene would have taken effect. So these veins, they would have been green instead of darker purplish color. So anyway, we'll see, and that'll, eggplant will end this particular video. So this is Brent, you guys. Thank you for watching. Please sub, like, and comment. Share if it really means something to you. Talk to me in the comments. And until the next one,